Govardhan Parikrama. And where we ended yesterday was having completely narrated the Krishna's lifting of Govardhan Hill pastime and the conclusion of the pastime. And soon we're going to visit some of the places where this pastime occurred. The part that we saw yesterday was where the Anukut, or the very large, massive large offering to Lord Hari. So Krishna assumed the form of Hari because Govardhan, we've been hearing, is both Hari Das and Lord Hari, both. So he assumed the form of Hari and ate all the offerings and wanted more. And thus the name of the place became Aniyor, I want more, I want more. So they went and gathered everything they could to get more, and made another Anukut, and Lord Hari ate it all. And he said again, Aniyor, Aniyor, I want more. And they were beside themselves what to do because their storerooms were empty, they didn't have any more. But Balaram knew what to do. What did Balaram do? Balaram offered Hari a tulsi leaf. And he was satisfied. Nothing more was needed. Just one tulsi leaf. So where we ended was going down the eastern side of Govardhan Hill, because Govardhan runs north and south. Going down the eastern side of Govardhan Hill, we were passing through the town of Aniyor. And in the town of Aniyor, there's a nice place we ended with, a place called Sankarshan Kund. Here's a map. Oh, gosh. What's going on? Well, it's showing nicely on my computer, but it's not showing. Bangsidari fixed some things on my computer yesterday. Now it doesn't work. Now that he's got things fixed, I won't know what to do when he's not around. Let's go to duplicate. Hey. But it shouldn't do like that. But here we go. Okay. There's the map. Can you see okay? Okay, I'll use my laser pointer. Well, I just point. Here's Sankarshan Kund. Down here, that green colored lake is Gory Kund. We're going to visit Sankarshan Kund and Gory Kund. We already visited number, sit here, 11 is Aniyor town. Let's see here. I'm not able to find my laser pointer. What did you do to my nice computer that doesn't work anymore?
text 10.
I'll do without the laser pointer, but I have, you whatever you did, it's good, but it's not good. Let's go to duplicate, then they can see at least. We'll work on it later. We'll work on it later. We'll work on it later. I have to do this. We'll work on it later. Okay. So this is Sankarshan Kund. This is Gory Kund. We already visited number 12, Balaram Temple, remember yesterday? Dauji and Krishna. And 14, we saw the Gopal Temple up on the hill. Gopal Roy Temple. We're going to see that again shortly. And over there is number 15. 15 is where the Gopal deity that Madhavendra Puri found, because Gopal told him where he was, Gopal Prakat Stali, the place where Gopal Prakat manifested. That's number 15. So we're going to visit now number 11 right in the center. Number 11 right in the center is Anior town, where all that cement roofs and streets and everything, that's the town, Anior. I want more, I want more. And here's Gopal Rai Temple, the white structure up on the hill. To its left, to our left, is the old temple that started to fall apart, so they built a new one. And in front of us is Sankarshan Kund. Now, Sankarshan is a name of Balaram, Sankarshan Kund. And in the Vayu Purana, it honors Sankarshan Kund this way. O Tirtharaj, by the name Sankarshana, O beautiful fountain of bliss, I offer my obeisances to you because you give grains and wealth to the Yadavas. We mentioned yesterday, if you remember, the Pandavas during their years of exile spent some time in one of the forests of Vrindavan just west of Govardhan Hill. In fact, Yudhishthira built a little temple in that forest west of Govardhan Hill. And there's reference, it's interesting, Vayu Purana, of course, the Puranas were written before the Pandavas existed, but they, the Yadavas can mean the dynasty of Yadus, because this is a Purana, and doesn't specify that Vayu Purana knew that the Pandavas were going to spend part of their 14 years in exile in Vrindavan, but that is what happened. And Bhakti Ratnakar, we've mentioned this several times. We'll mention it again, because the Bhakti Ratnakar is a book written by Narahari Chakravarti. Narahari Chakravarti wrote a book describing the pastimes of the associates of Mahaprabhu after Mahaprabhu's departure. So what happened with the next generation, basically, is Bhakti Ratnakar. So it's a contemporary literature, and we're going to hear something this midday here, this program, about a major part of Bhakti Ratnakar is a tour of Vrindavan that one of Mahaprabhu's contemporary associates, a great devotee, named Raghava Pandit, or also Raghava Goswami, who lived at his residence was Govardhan. We'll see his place of residence. Very interesting place. It's a cave. And Raghava Pandit took two of Jiva Goswami's disciples on a tour of Vrindavan, all of Vrindavan, and told him about each of the places that they visited. And it's all recorded in Bhakti Ratnakar. So who's the two that he gave the tour to were the next in line in disciplic succession. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, next in line Rupa and Sanatan, next in line Jiva Goswami, next in line Srinivasacharya and Narottam Das Thakur. So he took Srinivasacharya and Narottam Das Thakur on a tour of all the places of Vrindavan, and is recorded in Bhakti Ratnakar. And one of the mentions in Bhakti Ratnakar is they're visiting this place, Sankarshan Kund. And it's written, whoever wants to fill his desires should take bath here. We heard yesterday, it finally worked, the recording of Rupa Goswami's Ashtaka, his 8 prayers, glorifying Govardhan. And as you probably remember if you attended, the refrain at the end of each of the 8 prayers is requesting Govardhan, please fulfill all my desires. Now, of course, all of Rupa Goswami's desires are spiritual desires. He doesn't have material desires. But he's requesting the fulfillment of his spiritual desires through Govardhan. And in this visit to Govardhan's places of pilgrimage, the statement by Narahari through the tour taken by Raghava is he wants us to know that taking bath in Sankarshan Kund has their desires fulfilled. Of course, Govardhan will do it already. There's another reference from Vishnu Purana about Sankarshan Kund. Simply by bathing once in Sankarshan Kund, which is protected by Balaram, the sinful reactions to even those persons who have killed brahmanas and committed equally sinful acts are immediately driven away. No one need not have any doubts in this regard. Now, you may remember, hopefully I mentioned it, this deity of Dauji or Balaram that's in Anior town was hidden. They immersed the deity in Sankarshan Kund at one point in time in fear of invading soldiers, because there was a period of time during Aurangzeb's rule that maliciously they were smashing temples and smashing deities, or at least trying to do both. So in fear, they took the deity and put the deity in Sankarshan Kund. And some generations later, they found the deity and reinstalled the deity for worship. So Sankarshan Kund protected Lord Balaram. Now, you remember the map we saw directly across the road from Sankarshan Kund is this very simple place called Gory Kund. Not very large, but it's a nice place and a very, very wonderful pastime connected with Gory Kund. The pastime connected with Gory Kund is, this is a photograph taken many years before. Because I've been visiting Vrindavan and visiting Govardhan, I have many slides where what places looked like years ago is very different from what it looks like today. Maybe you remember that during Radhastami, we visited Ravel, the place of Radharani's birth, and what it looked like many years ago. Over just in the period of the COVID time, they completely changed a lot of the appearance the basic structure of the home where the family lives that worships the deity of Srimati Radharani in her childhood. It's like Bal Gopal. Many you have seen or maybe have in your home, little deity of Bal Gopal. Well, the deity of Radha looks just like that, except it's Radha at Ravel. Anyway, this is a photograph from many years ago of that same place, Gory Kund. Obviously, it's undergone some transformation. And it's mentioned specifically in one of Rupa Goswami's writings known as Vidagdha Madhava. Vidagdha Madhava, go ahead. Nataka. Nataka means drama. So generally we just hear Vidagdha Madhava, but more formally, Vidagdha Madhava Nataka. And in Vidagdha Madhava Nataka, there's a nice pastime described there in connection with Gory Kund. And during Radhastami, we spoke about this pastime. And no problem hearing it again and again. Even the slides are from that time. So here we go. On the occasion of Shravana Purnima, Purnamasi was visited by Abhimanyu. Who's Abhimanyu? Abhimanyu was the so-called husband of Radharani. Now, when were Abhimanyu and Radharani married? You ever heard the answer to that? I have the answer to that from Shivaram Maharaj. Because I used to think that they were married during the 1 year that Krishna had manifested himself as cowherd boys. And it's mentioned in Garga Samhita that during that 1 year, each of the cowherd boys were married to the cowherd girls, because during those times, Vedic times, young boys and young girls, they didn't live together married, but they knew who they were married to. So when they grew up, they didn't have to go through all those changes that go on today. Who am I going to marry? And what about this one? And horoscopes and yada, yada, yada. Like confusing. So they were just, they did all that astrology stuff and they were married when they were little. They stayed at their home, they grew up. Prabhupada describes the procedure. On the boy's birthday, the girl would bring some edibles, a cake or samosas or, something that she knew how to make nicely. And he would go, "Oh, you're a good cook." And he knew that that's his wife, but he's not living with his wife. He's just going to have to wait till he grows up. And she grows up, and then they live together, and they already like each other, especially the prasadam that she prepares. So, according to Garga Samhita, during that 1 year that Krishna had manifested himself as each one of the cowherd boys and calves, during that year, the cowherd girls, the gopis, were married to the cowherd boys. So I always assumed, maybe, not for sure, but maybe that's when Abhimanyu and Radharani were married during that 1 year. Well, it turns out that's not the case. And according to Brahma Vaivarta Purana, there's a description that Radharani's grandmother, we'll do this again because we've done it, this is the 4th time. Radharani had a mother, and her mother's name was Kirtida. And Kirtida had a mother. Her name was Mukhara. In fact, when Radharani's mother and father, Vrishabhanu And Kirtida moved to where Radharani was born in Raval. It had a different name, Mukharavali. It was named after her mother, Mukharavali. But the name changed to Raval, meaning the residence of a wealthy landholder who was Abhimanyu. No, who was a Vrishabhanu. So back to Abhimanyu is the so-called husband of Radharani, so-called because the marriage happened when Radharani was 8. And the arrangement was made because Kamsa had gotten word about the beautiful features of the young village girls in Vrindavan, and especially attractive was Radharani. And Radharani's grandmother was concerned that Kamsa might do something. So she consulted Purnamasi and an astrologer, and it was accepted by her grandmother that Radharani should marry Abhimanyu. And so Mukhara shifted Radharani from Varsana to another place, waiting for the marriage to be arranged. And when the marriage was arranged, then Radharani moved to the place that was the family or ancestral home of Abhimanyu and his mother Jatila, which is Yavat. 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 So Abhimanyu is hearing some rumors about his wife mixing with Madhava, meaning Krishna. So he went to visit Purnamasi and said, I've made some plans to leave Vrindavan and go to Mathura. And Purnamasi said, why? Well, I've been hearing these stories of Radharani and Madhava mixing, and I hear so many stories, it's too disturbing, it's improper. I think I should leave Vrindavan and go to Mathura. So long conversation back and forth. This is from Vidagdha Madhava. And Purnamasi convinces him, look, this is just rumors. Why listen to rumors? And then concludes that topic by saying, if you catch them red-handed, then you can move to Mathura. He thinks that's a good solution. And then he has a second idea he wants to discuss with her, with Purnamasi. He asks Purnamasi, could you initiate, because she's a Brahmani, could you give the mantras for worshipping Gauri to Radha? Because my good friend, Govardhan Malla, has his wife worshipping Gauri, and from worshipping Gauri, he's now rich. And I want to become rich. So could you teach Gauri, can you teach Radha how to worship Gauri? Oh, very good. Sure. I'll teach her how to worship Gauri. So Abhimanyu leaves. And shortly after Abhimanyu leaves, then Vrinda Devi comes. And there we see the palace that Radha's father, Vrishabhanu, because he was wealthy, he built a nice palace for her, and Yavat. So Vrinda came to see Purnamasi. There you see them in front of the palace. There's Radharani upstairs looking. And Vrinda says, Krishna sent me here with a request. He would like to meet with Radharani. Can you help arrange that? And Purnamasi says, very good. This is the Purnima on the Shravan month, and this is a perfect time for lovers to meet. She's part of the conspiracy. part of the loving arrangements of Radha and Krishna. Next, who should come but Lalita and Vishaka? So then they, the four ladies, begin discussing how to make an arrangement for Radha to meet with Krishna that day. And it is decided that since Radha was asked by Abhimanyu if I could teach her how to worship Gauri, maybe she should go to worship Gauri, and Krishna could meet her at Gory Kund. Because at that time, there was a Gory Deity at a Gory temple at Gory Kund. So they think it's all a very good idea. So Lalita and Vishaka leave to start making those arrangements. And Vrinda Devi is going to go also to Gory Kund. Meanwhile, Lalita says today, before leaving, Lalita says, I heard that today Chandravali is going to leave her home and go visit her father. And to go there, they'll have to pass through Gory Kund. And so off they go to make these transcendental arrangements. And meanwhile, Krishna has already made it to Gory Kund because he was tipped off. And lo and behold, Chandravali was traveling with her dear friend, Gopi friend, Padma, her chief assistant, just like Lalita and Vishaka are chief assistants of Radha. So Padma is the chief assistant of Chandravali. So they're going together, and Krishna stops their motion and starts a conversation with them. And in the course of his conversation with them, Krishna, tries to embrace Chandravali. Just as he's trying to embrace Chandravali, who should come along but Chandravali's grandmother? And Chandravali's grandmother says some very harsh things to Krishna and takes Chandravali right back to her husband's home. You're not going to go see your father. We're going right back home, and takes her away. Shortly thereafter, Radharani is gathering flowers to worship Gauri on her way to Gory Kund and Gauri temple. And Krishna blocks her passage. He won't let her move. And they have some angry talks back and forth, loving angry talks. Purposefully, Krishna speaks Chandravali's name when calling Radha. Radha. And Radha becomes very upset and leaves in a huff. She enters her man mood, her angry mood. Vidagdha Madhava says, the drama says, this was arranged by Krishna for a change of scene, because it's a drama. So, change of scene, curtain closes, now the curtain opens, and Krishna requests Vrinda Devi, who is really, really expert. When the more you hear Krishna's pastimes, the role that Vrinda Devi plays is really fantastic. So, she has, according to the description about Vrinda Devi, she has storage places all through the forest of Vrindavan. And Krishna wants from her a Gauri costume. No problem, she'll get from one of her storerooms. She dresses Krishna. Gauri is golden color, but she dresses Krishna to look exactly like the Gory Deity. So what does Krishna do? Krishna, imitating the Gory Deity, goes to the Gory temple and stands in front of the Gory Deity in such a way you can't see the deity. It looks like Gauri has stepped out of her deity form. And yeah, Vrinda Devi arranges. So there's Vrinda Devi. You see there's a parrot on her left hand, because she always has a parrot on her left hand. And their parrot has a name. We mentioned this yesterday. Her parrot's name is Daksha. And it's Vrinda Devi's system. Instead of having a Google group or sending SMS messages, she tells her parrot what she wants the parrot to send messages out throughout the whole of Vrindavan. And Daksha, the parrot, has 100,000 parrots as her team. So different technology, but same function. And so Vrinda Devi arranges for a costume for Krishna, who goes to Gory temple and stands in front of the deity. Meanwhile, Padma, who is Chandravali's dear associate, she was convinced that it was Lalita who told Chandravali's mother about the meeting with Krishna, so she wanted to get back. So she went to Yavat and told Jatila that Radha and Krishna are going to be meeting at Gory Tirtha. That's exactly what Abhimanyu wanted to hear. Because Purnamasi said, if I catch them red-handed, then we can leave. I won't have to deal with this business anymore. But the role of Purnamasi is she's the guru of everybody. She's Yogamaya personified. She's a very elderly Brahmani, and everyone looks up to her. She's the guru for all the Brijbasis. And so there they are at the Gory temple. And when Abhimanyu and Jatila arrive, they hear the Gory deity, who is Krishna, saying to Radha, "Oh, Radha, do not make such a difficult request." And Abhimanyu says, "Aha! My good wife, we've caught you red-handed." No, that Krishna's not there because he's the Gory deity. And the question then comes, please tell me. Before this, Lalita and Vishaka say, just see, Abhimanyu, you've always wanted your good wife to worship Gory. Now here she is, falling before the deity of Gory, pleading on your behalf. Radharani is making a request on your behalf. So Abhimanyu wants to know, what's this difficult request that Radha is asking? The Gory deity, who is Krishna, says, "O brave Abhimanyu, Radha is requesting for the removal of a great disaster which is sitting on your head." And he wants to know, what's disaster? And Gory said, it's too painful, I can't tell you. And he requests Vrinda Devi, you say it. So Vrinda Devi says, "O Abhimanyu, the day after tomorrow, King Kamsa is going to cut off your head and offer it to Lord Shiva." And immediately Jatila starts wailing, "Oh no, Gory Devi, please do something." He says, "Not possible. Not possible." Of course, Gory Devi says, "Not possible." And Radha then says, "Oh, Gory, please fulfill my desires." Gory Devi says, "Oh, Radha, I do not take much interest in the prayers of the sages and yogis, but the rope of devotion with which you have bound me forces me to bless you. But on one condition, you must never leave Vraja and always render service unto me, Krishna." And Jatila is so happy. "Oh, you've saved my son. You've saved your good husband. What good fortune. Oh, Radha, thank you so much." And Abhimanyu says, "I hear my rattle-brained mother saying all kinds of things, and my sister, she's half crazy, and she says these things to my mother, and they believe it, and I'm going to stop believing it. I'm going to let mother, let's go home and cancel our plans for going to Mathura. So they leave. Just then, Purnamasi comes, and Purnamasi sees the scene, and she's very happy. I would like to read it. The exchange is very special. Here. Abhimanyu, O shelter of your devotees, to Gory Devi. O most merciful, I promise I'll never try to take Radha to Mathura out of Vraja. And she will engage in your service, which she does. She serves Krishna all the time. So Purnamasi arrives. Oh, beautiful golden complexion goddess, coming before you makes me very happy. Shri Krishna, giving up his acting, says, O gentle lady, all glories to you. Purnamasi says, O son of Yashoda, accept my blessings hundreds and hundreds of times over. Today you have relieved me of the fear of being separated from Radhika. Krishna replies, my dear Purnamasi, Radha's great fear has been removed, and the disturbance in your mind has been destroyed. The Sakis have attained great bliss. Now how may I serve you? And the conclusion, oh, I skipped something, it's very important. Vrinda Devi says to Abhimanyu, that man who wrongly accuses a chaste wife of infidelity will cut short his lifespan. Gory Devi declares that that was the reason that his head was going to be chopped, because he was falsely accusing Radha. Gory Devi, O most fortunate Abhimanyu, Radha is the source of your good fortune, so do not mistrust her. Yeah, okay, here it is. Subal is one of Krishna's cowherd boyfriends. And Subal's complexion is like Radha's, and he sometimes dresses up like Radha and jokes with my jealous, envious mother. Okay, how may I serve you? I personally am fully happy, but still I have two requests. Please always enjoy in the kunjas of Vrindavan with Radha, and any devotee in whose ear a small drop of this nectarine pastime enters, let him attain a loving affection to your lotus feet, just like Radharani's. The Gory Kund pastime. Now the place is quite simple. As you saw even before, it was more simple than simple. But transcendental pastimes of Krishna are eternal. Here's a map showing from the left to the right the tail or punch of Govardhan, because Govardhan is sometimes described as being like a peacock that has a long tail. And the central body of the peacock is Govardhan town. And the head of the peacock is Radha Kund with the two eyes, Radha Kund, Shama Kund. So that it actually runs north and south. And this is looking horizontal, but it's just because the screen is easier to fit it on this way. And now we're going to add place number 4 in the map. That's Anior. We visited Anior. And we visited Sankarshan Kund, and across the street is Gory Kund. So now we're going to go further down. There's Anior town number 1. Prakat Stali is the place where the Gopal deity of Madhavendra Puri appeared. And now next we're going to number 3, which is Govinda Kund. Now the pastime we heard about yesterday, because the pastime of Krishna's lifting Govardhan Hill and all those things took place further north along the eastern side of Govardhan Hill, where the Annakut was offered to Haridev, etc. Now there's number 3 is Govinda Kund. Govinda Kund has a very special role in this pastime, in the Govardhan Leela pastime. I mentioned wrongly yesterday that the Sakshi Gopal temple was in Govardhan town. It's not. It's in the Anior town. There's a photograph. Looks like some nice devotees sitting right outside the temple there. Little temple. But those of you that know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, you know about the Sakshi Gopal story. Does anybody not know the Sakshi Gopal story? Okay. Sakshi means witness. So that it's described when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling, heading for Puri at the request of his mother. In Orissa, there's a Sakshi Gopal temple on the way to Puri from Mayapur, going in a southerly direction. It's in Orissa. And when he was there, he heard the whole story of how the Gopal deity from Vrindavan made his way all the way to Orissa. And the description has lots of details, but the essence of the description is there was a wealthy Brahmin from the town where Sakshi Gopal lived, and he wanted to go visit Vrindavan. So there was a very poor Brahmin who assisted him, because the elderly Brahmin couldn't move very easily, and so the younger Brahmin treated him with greatest respect and took him here and there and took care of all of his needs and served him like a father. And while in Vrindavan, he expressed to this young man, "You've served me so nicely, I'd like to reciprocate in an appropriate way. I'd like to give my daughter in marriage to you." And the young man said, "Please don't say that, because you're wealthy and I'm poor, and no one in our village is going to accept that your daughter is going to marry me." And he said, No, I mean it. I mean it. I insist. Please accept." So then the young man said, "Let us go before the Gopal deity and you take a vow that this is what you mean. Then you can't go against your word." So they do that. And the young Brahmin says to Gopal, who's not yet Sakshi Gopal, "You bear witness. And if this elder Brahmin goes against his word, you please verify his word. He made a promise before you." So they complete their journey, they go back to their town, and the elderly Brahmin informs his family, "I promised my daughter in marriage to this young man." The young daughter has an elder brother who puts his foot down. "No way. He's poor and we're rich and we can't be involved in a marriage with a poor man. No way. But I promised before the deity." And so then he said, "Deity, shmiyati." Our daughter can't marry your daughter. My sister cannot marry this fellow. Just, tell him you got confused. If someone asks, you can't remember. So as some time passed, and no message was sent to the young Brahmin, but a promise was given before the deity. So he went to the elder Brahmin, say, what's happening? And he didn't say, "What's happening is my son is forbidding it." He said, "I can't remember." But the young Brahmin knows he remembers. He knows that he's in a family circumstance. So he goes all the way to Vrindavan, comes before the Gopal deity and says, please come bear witness. Because the older Brahmin, his religious principles are at stake. He's made a promise before you, and he's got some pressure from his family to not complete the promise. And the deity then spoke to him, saying, I'm a deity, how am I supposed to go all the way to Orissa? And the young man said, if you can speak, you can walk. He said, all right, but on one condition. What's that? On the condition that as we're walking, you don't look back, I'll just follow behind you because you know the way. So it happened that all day long, the deity followed and he could hear the jingling of his ankle ornaments. And then at night he would take rest and feed the deity in the morning, and then they'd carry on their journey all the way from Vrindavan back to Orissa. When they got to the outside of the town in which the old man lived and the young man lived, the jingling of the ankle ornaments stopped. So he turned around. The deity said, I told you, I'm not going further. So that's the place where the deity is worshipped. So when the young Brahmin brought the family members of the older Brahmin, how did the deity, because it's a very tall deity, how did the deity get here? He came to bear witness. Because the young Brahmin said, oh, deity shmiyati. If the deity comes, then I'll accept. So he brought the deity. Or the deity came and gave witness. So therefore, Sakshi Gopal used to be in Vrindavan. And now, instead of the Sakshi Gopal that's in Orissa, the Sakshi Gopal deity is a deity of Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. Now, the Sakshi Gopal deity isn't Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. It's really, really hard. They don't allow cameras. But I know somebody who got a picture. I won't tell you his name. But he had 2 phones. And what he did was, with one phone he took a picture, and then the other phone he was taking pictures. The pujaris wanted to see his phone. So he showed him the phone that didn't have any pictures. Na, 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 na. And now I have pictures of Sakshi Gopal in Orissa. And this is the Sakshi Gopal that's now in Anior town. And now we're going, you see all these numbers. There's the Madan Mohan temple, which we're going to visit first, number 1. Can you see? Way over there on the right. Madan Mohan temple. And then one by one, same map we're going to see like 8 times. And each of the places we're going to visit one by one. So let's just start with 1, and then we'll go to 2. So there's 1 is the Madan Mohan temple. There's the Madan Mohan temple. Notice there's lots of sheep and some cows and other animals in front of the temple to the side. And there's a vendor with an umbrella selling something, I don't know what. And we're going to go up the steps, and there's a friendly pujari waiting for us at the top of the steps. And there's the deity, Madan Mohan, with Gaur Nitai on one side. Apparently it's Srimati Radharani on the other side. And over by her left or our right, there's some Govardhan Shilas being worshipped. Here's a close-up of the deity, Madan Mohan, being worshipped in this temple. Now here's Govinda Kund. This is number 2. This is a drone's eye view of the Govinda Kund. Now the Madan Mohan temple is, over to the far right. And look on the far left, there's many temple spires. We're going to visit all those places, one by one by one. And here's Govinda Kund from another angle. Over on the far right, those where all those temples are. And there's Govardhan Hill in the background. Nice quiet day where the devotees are taking their bath in Govinda Kund. Here's some words by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Govinda Kund is exalted for its many spiritual activities. It was here that Indra, defeated by Lord Govinda, offered prayers to him and bathed him. There's going to be several mentions of Krishna's Abhishek, because after the pastime, Krishna placed Govardhan Hill down, Indra came, and Abhishek and Abhishek and Abhishek. Another photograph, that's Govardhan Hill in the background. Again, the temples are to our left. There's several places we're going to visit. With humility caused by great fear, Indra took hold of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and, in the company of a Surabhi cow, performed his coronation festival by bathing him with the waters of the heavenly Ganges river. Thus, Lord Krishna's kingship over the cows became splendidly manifest. I pray that Govinda Kund, the lake created by that ceremonial bath, may eternally appear before my eyes. Here's some devotees bathing, or at least putting their feet in Govinda Kund. And here's some local pujaris. There's a close-up of this fellow that has very interesting tilak. And he's a very gentle person. Doesn't speak much English, but he's a very gentle person. And another from another one of the temples, wearing our traditional Gaudiya Vaishnav tilak. So now, one by one, after visiting 1 and 2, it's the Madan Mohan temple on our right, in Govinda Kund, we're going to see the deity of Radha Govinda. See number 3 down at the very bottom. This is the Radha Govinda temple. There's the outside, and here's the altar, Radha Govinda. See the Panchatattva painting to the left, and other deities. Here's the deity dressing on a different day. And here's the deity without his turban or crown. Notice the little Krishna has a flute almost as big as the big Krishna. There's a close-up of the deity and a close-up of Radharani. That was number 3 down at the bottom of the screen. And next we're going to go to Radha Gopinath temple. These are little places, like very, very small, but that very devoted to their worship, because Govinda Kund is a special place. There's the entrance to the temple, and here's the Radha Gopinath deity inside the temple. Very simple backdrop and place of worship, very small place, but the devotees, they're very devoted to their deity naturally. And here's the area surrounding that temple, and nearby, not in this very same temple, but there's a Shivalinga, and there's his bull carrier, and Ganesh, and Parvati, and Kartikeya. So now here's a picture, we're looking across from where these temples are. And there's to our left side, going along, is the Govardhan Hill. And now we're going to visit the next place. After some nice photographs, sometimes they paint the wall surrounding Govinda Kund. And you can see really close to the hill, really close. Cows grazing on top of the hill. or along the side of the hill. And here's one of those Nilagai. We're going to see some more of those later, shortly. So next, after Radha Govinda and Radha Gopinath, is number 5. Number 5, down at the very bottom left. That's a Jagannath temple. Here's the Jagannath deities at the Jagannath temple. And of course, Govardhan Shilas in the foreground. And Vrinda Devi photograph over on the right side, below the Jagannath deities. And Gaurnatai in an interesting dancing pose. Vallabhacharya spent time by the side of Govinda Kund because it's a celebrated place. Many of you know Vallabhacharya established sitting places, or baitak, many places throughout Vraja and other places outside of Vraja as well. So one of those sitting places is here, the little temple where this is his sitting place. And this is the altar. The photograph on the bottom left is a standard photograph of a painting of Vallabhacharya being given darshan of Krishna, like that. So this is their way of decorating the deity of Govardhan. They don't do as we do with eyes and so forth, but they give tilak and turbans. And within this little Vallabhacharya Baitak is a 4-armed bas-relief deity with an Anantashesh over his head and 4-armed form of the Lord. So that was number 6. And now we're going next to number 7. There's a little Gopal deity resembling the Gopal deity of Madhavendra Puri, much smaller. Here's the Govinda Kund place. And when we go inside, what we'll see, we didn't go inside yet, there's the entrance. There's the Gopal deity. Not exactly the same, but similar, at least left arm raised and blackish form, Gopal. Here's the same deity. Again, it's bas-relief deity. And worship nicely. Next is number 8. This is now Mukharavind number 2, and then we're going to see number 3 before we leave Govardhan. Mukharavind means the mouth, mukha, the mouth of the deity of Govardhan. So by the side of Govardhan Hill, on the back side of Govinda Kund, is Mukharavind, and here's the little place. You see, right behind is Govardhan Hill. And here's a pilgrim worshipping the Mukharavind deity. On the left-hand side is said to be the mouth of Govardhan, and Anantashesh is to his right, to his left, to our right. And there's a Ganesh Shila, and there's an Airavata Shila, and there's a little drinking bowl Shila, Katora Shila. They put milk there. And up above that is a Shila that they say has Krishna's heel print. Of course, all these Shilas are Govardhan Shilas by the side of Govardhan Hill. And this is a photograph of the backside of that area. And now one more place, and that's Radha Shamasundara number 9, over to the left. Mukharavind was number 8. And Radha Shamasundara is number 9. Here's the Pujari receiving us. And there's the deity of Radha Shamasundara. So you can see Govinda Kund is a popular place where different Vaishnavas to be by the side of the sacred Govinda Kund have dedicated their lives and their bhajan to worshipping Govardhan in this particular place. We have some other friends, they also like Govinda Kund. The water buffalo. He looks pretty happy. So now we're going to go from Govinda Kund, which is pictured, that green square shape, number 1, Govinda Kund. We're going to go down to number 2. That's Dauka Dauji. Along the way, there's some places, there are several such places as this, where the pilgrims have the opportunity. The sadhu there has some milk, and they make some donation, they get some milk, and with the milk they can bathe Govardhan Shila. There's several places along the side of Govardhan Hill like this. And there's pilgrims walking along the barefoot, walking along the sandy pathway, traversed by who knows how many hundreds of thousands of millions of pilgrims have passed through this area over the long periods of time. There's an outer path, that's this one, and there's an inner path, the one you saw before. And the inner path is softer, but there's also sometimes thorns. And it's pretty uncomfortable when you're walking barefoot, going around Govardhan, and the thorn goes into your foot. So that path has also been paved with bricks, so cars can pass. That happens sometimes. Now there's many slides with cows and little cowherd boys and monkeys and parrots and all kinds of creatures from Govardhan. One tree is kind of grown around, embracing a Govardhan Shila. Some inviting Shilas protruding from the hill. Place where some people actually worship Govardhan, right at Govardhan Hill itself. Very attractive. If you have some love for Govardhan Hill, these scenes of the rocks protruding from Govardhan Hill mean something different than if you don't. So notice the Parikrama path, that sandy path going below that blue rectangle, and there's a path going up into almost on top of Govardhan Hill. So let's go. There's a path that leads to Dauka Dauji, and on top of Govardhan Hill is this pink structure. That's the temple. Now, I mentioned this yesterday. We don't walk on Govardhan Hill, but Brijvasis commonly do. We don't walk on Govardhan Hill because our understanding is the hill is Krishna. We don't put our foot on Krishna. And the Brijvasis are a little different. They don't have that same concern. From this area and the southern side of Govardhan Hill is one of the places, a favorite place for Krishna for Rasa dance. And we're going to see several slides related to, we actually see the place. So Balaram customarily would not be present when Krishna was with the gopis, but one time he was up on top of Govardhan Hill at this vantage point, and in the evening he could see this very beautiful pastime. And he was stunned seeing, and he practically fainted. So Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj loaned his camera to a local Brijbasi to go up on top and see the temple, Doka Dauji temple. In the Doka Dauji temple, there's no actual deity there. It's, as you see, it's Govardhan Shilas, and there's a particular Shila that's blackish in color, and they worship this blackish in color Shila because when Balaram, who is whitish, saw the rasa dance, he became so ecstatic, he became blackish like Krishna. So this is their mood in their worship in this particular Doka Dauji temple. And as he was looking over the side of Govardhan Hill, seeing the rasa dance, his crown fell. And when his crown fell to one of the Shilas below, it made a mark on the Shila. And so the Shila is called Mukut Shila, because his crown is impressed upon the Shila. And the locals, they place flowers, they bathe the Shila with milk, they perform Abhishek for the Shila of Govardhan that has the impression of Balaram's crown on the top. Okay, so that's Dauka Dauji. That's number 2, again, at the path going in. And way over to the left, that's the tail, or Punchari. And there's a little town in that area you see for the very, very end. So Govardhan is tapering down and down and down. It doesn't go too sharp, but the height of Govardhan reduces as you get closer to the tail of Govardhan. Here's some Brijbasi ladies. They're doing this Dandavats Parikrama with the assistance of a little pillow. And they have a rock. And they place the rock at arm's length in front of them. And then stand up where the rock is. Place their pillow down where their knees are going to go. And then extend themselves and do full Dandavats going all around Govardhan. A few other friends. In the city, the monkeys are a little aggressive. And the ones that are out here, they're different. They're much more docile. But some can, if you stare at them, they'll stare back at you. And sometimes they'll relax. Sometimes they get tired, like this little monkey. Decides to take a nap. There's peacocks, there's pilgrims, and there's Govardhan Hill. More of the Shilas on the side of Govardhan Hill. So we're not walking past, but we're seeing largely these photographs are from Bhakti Chaitanya Swami's, 1.5 million photographs of Govardhan. Sometimes the visitors will, or devotees, locals, will pile stones from Govardhan with the understanding this is creating a place for my residence by the side of Govardhan. Shilas protruding, peacocks, more Shilas. So now we're going down to the Punchari area, the tip of the tail of the peacock. And notice to the right, there's a sign that says caves, because there's many mentions. There's caves in Vrindavan. Here's some of the caves where the cowherd boys would go when it was scorching hot to get some relief from the sun, or when it was raining, they would get out of the rain by entering these caves. Several such caves along this area. local residents, our mother and her little monkey. There are some, not many, but there's some langur monkeys, and they're more docile than the other ones. This little fellow is going to show off a little bit. He knows he's being photographed, posing. Lifts his leg up, shows his teeth. Don't want to have those teeth bite you, I'll tell you. Langur monkey on top of a tree. Some goats. Look pretty friendly. Sadhu. Another sadhu worshipping Govardhan this unique way. So now you'll see many more blue dots with numbers inside. Number 1, the tip of the Govardhan Hill. Number 2, we're going to go up a hill and visit a deity of Lord Nrisingha, very nice deity. And then we'll also visit Upasara Kund and Navala Kund, 3 and 4. And there's a deity of Srinathji, really nice temple and deity, and the cave of Raghava. And certainly not least is Lotaba, but he's a little further away, up number 5 up north. So this is the Nrisingha temple up on top of a hill. It's a bit of a walk to get up the flights of stairs. Not all parikrama groups go up those flights of stairs. Here's a look-see from the rooftop of that temple, looking north. That's where the Govardhan Hill sinks into the earth and then starts to rise, going in that northerly direction. And you can see way off in the distance, there's the Gopal Rai temple, that white structure. Here's the Nrisingha deity. And when the pujari lifts the cloth of the deity, underneath the cloth is Lord Nrisingha being bifurcated by Lord Nrisingha. Hiranyakashipu, being bifurcated by Lord Nrisingha. And look down there, there's Prahlad by his leg. There's several photographs of the deity. There you see the ISKCON painting of Lord Nrisingha below him. He looks very happy. Very close-up photo of the deity. And here's Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj getting the mercy of Lord Nrisingha by touching his lotus feet. Looking to the side, Govardhan Hill is over to our right as we're looking out. So this is from the rooftop of that Nrisingha temple. There's Navala Kund, the first Kund that you see in front of you. And then Upasara Kund is next behind that. And then off in the distance you see some domes. And that's the Gopal temple and the Lotaba temple. So let's go and take a look at Navala Kund and Upasara Kund, 3 and 4. Here's Navala Kund. It means ever fresh, Navala. And it is said this is a place where Krishna, after performing Rasa dance, would enter to take his bath. There's some statement you'll hear shortly that it is said by some, it's a local story, the ecstasy that Radha and Krishna felt from performing Rasa dance in this southern area of Govardhan Hill. The ecstasy of Krishna melted and filled this Kund, and the ecstasy of Radharani melted and filled the Upasara Kund. So that's one of the two local histories of Upasara Kund. Here's the other. During the great Abhishek of Lord Krishna, 7 Apsaras came from the heavenly planets with celestial waters to bathe the Lord. When they bathed him, the waters ran off his body and collected here to perform this Kund. And then here's the other. During the Rasa Leelas, Radha Krishna's ecstasy melted and flowed into these 2 Kunds. So that's the local story. There's a reference from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 27, I think. At the time of Krishna's Abhishek, the most beautiful damsels of the heavenly planets came here to dance, due to which this lake was named Upasara Kund. That's not the verse, but it's mentioning the explanation of how it got the name Upasara Kund. Here's the verse from chapter 27. Tumbaru, Narada and other Gandharvas, along with the Vidyadharas, Siddhas, and Charanas, came there to sing the glories of Lord Hari, which purify the entire world. And the wives of the demigods, filled with joy, danced together in the Lord's honors. This is a direct translation of that verse. And the idea is, when this is the chapter related to the Abhishek and after the lifting of Govardhan Hill, how there was Krishna was being honored. So when Krishna was being honored in this way, it was a big event, and including the Apsaras coming and filling Upasara Kund. Here's a website photo of Upasara Kund, pretty modern. Look, there's some photographs that's not so well renovated, like this. I mean, over time, everything deteriorates. That's how the material energy works. But this is these are older photos of Upasara Kund than the more modern one that you just saw. There's an aerial view. I believe that the photo was taken from a water tower. Maybe you remember a picture of a water tower. So somebody climbed up the water tower and took a picture of the Parikrama group down by the side of Upasara Kund. So that's Navala Kund and Upasara Kund 3 and 4. We're going to go next to number 5 and see our friend Lotaba. There is the temple of Lotaba. And Lota means return. So the story, the history behind this pastime, or behind the deity, is one of Krishna's cowherd boyfriends who was actually named Lota. And when he heard that Krishna was going to go to Vrindavan, he asked him, please don't go. All of us are so attached to you, we won't be able to maintain our lives if you leave. And Krishna promised him, no, don't worry, I'll come back very soon. I just have some business to take care of, and I'll come back, I promise. And Lota pleaded, take me with you, please don't go. No, I'll come back tomorrow. I'll come back in just a few days. I promise. And so, facing in the direction that Krishna had traveled to go to Mathura, Lota waited. And after a few days, sure enough, Krishna hadn't come. But he was faithful in Krishna's words, and he waited longer, and he waited longer, and he waited a year, and he waited several years, and Krishna still didn't come. Now, eventually, Krishna did come to Vrindavan. You know that, right? I mean, Padma Purana indicates after Krishna killed Dantavakra, because he was waiting for the demons to be killed. And after Dantavakra was killed, which was very near to Mathura, on the western side of Mathura, Krishna entered Vrindavan, and he paid gave his association to Lotaba. There's some different periods of time when these photographs were taken. Really close up, Lotaba. So now here's a drone's eye view looking down from Govardhan Hill, so from the north looking south. If you, the laser pointers, you can't see this, can you? You can see? This, my little mouse thing here?
Yes.
Hey, we're going to fix it. He's going to fix it. There's the... Here's the Parikrama path, right here. Over here on the left, that's the Nrisingha temple. And from the Nrisingha temple, we saw Naval Kund, and then Upasara Kund is just beyond it. So the mouse disappeared. There's the water tower, from which somebody took a picture of Upasara Kund. And then over here is Lotaba. And then we're going to go a little bit in the northerly direction and see a temple of Nathji. Along the way, there's some vendors and nice pujari giving abhishek of his little deities. Ladies gathering water at the watering tank. Our friend, one of the monkeys. Our friend, some pigs. And this is not during the rainy season, but we're looking from that side. There's Govardhan Hill rising, and there's the Parikrama path. But we're going to go away from the Parikrama path a little bit. There's the rainy season, same place. See, over here on the left, that's the Gopal Rai temple. And we're now going to go to number 6 and 7 and 8. So the Rasastali is the place that used to be a grove of kadamba trees. Now it's been stripped, but it was a very nice place for the Rasa dance. And a deity of Srinathji. As we're approaching the area of Srinathji, the temple is to our left, but there's this little monument of sorts announcing Srinathji is just around the corner. There's what's on the inside of that little shrine. And here's the temple with a lot of construction materials all over the place. But the entrance is on the left, and we go before the deity, and the deity is very beautiful and very opulently cared for, with, of course, a Govardhan Shila by his side. On different days, different dresses, but the same Nachi deity. By the side, there's a Suttala Kund. Sutala means a very beautiful place. It's not always filled with water, but during rainy season there's water. And otherwise lots of algae. This is the area marking where the Rasa dance was performed. There's not so many trees remaining, but this is a nice painting of that moonlit night when Krishna would perform Rasa dance with the gopis in this area. Just another favorite place for Krishna for Rasa dance was at Sevakunj in Vrindavan town. And another favorite place for Krishna to perform Rasa dance is Vangshivat. We plan to visit these places when we go to Vrindavan. So there were many Kadamba trees. Now, as I mentioned, it's now quite barren. Kadamba trees and tamal trees in this area. But now it's quite empty. Very simple. But this is the area where the Rasa dance was performed. Very celebrated place. And now we're going to visit number 8. Listed here is Raghava Cave. Here's the place where Raghava Pandit, I mentioned at the very beginning about Bhakti Ratnakar. And in Bhakti Ratnakar, there's a large section where Raghava Pandit or Raghava Goswami took 2 of the great acharyas in our disciplic line and pilgrimage all around Vrindavan. And it mentions something about each place. Some mention is made. So there's the entry door. As you see, it's now locked. But behind that entry door, you go down, look closely, you can see there's a cave. And the cave is called Mani Kandali. And Raghava Goswami used to chant his japa in the cave. He didn't want anybody what disturbance is there at the southern tip of Govardhan Hill? But he went in the cave and there was nothing going on except the holy name. So he was very devoted to Govardhan, very devoted to Krishna. And he was a contemporary of Lord Chaitanya. And in Krishna's Leela, he is Champakalata, one of the 8 principal gopis. When you see in Mayapur, there's Radha Madhava and the Ashtasakis. So Champakalata is one of the Ashtasakis. And Champakalata in Gaur Leela is Raghava Goswami. He wrote a book describing the glories of bhakti, and particularly lots of glorification of Govardhan Hill. He loved Govardhan Hill very much. Mentioned he took Srinivas Acharya and Narottam Das Thakur in a tour of Vrindavan. Here's another photograph of the entrance to his cave. They fixed it up a little bit over time, but they don't allow people to even go into that area anymore. They must have had some problem. Okay, so there's the aerial view. We visited all these places, and now we're ready to go to the next. We're leaving the tail of Govardhan, heading for the northerly direction. In the northerly direction, the first thing we're going to see is number 3, the blue cows, or Nilagai. That's what they're called locally. Blue cows. There's many, many, many in this area. Here's a regular cow. And here's some Nilagai. Now there's a monkey that's right in front of us, but up on the hill, there's some regular cows, and we're going to visit, here's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur glorifying Govardhan this way. There's a pleasant grove of sandalwood trees on Govardhan Hill. Although snakes generally flock to sandalwood trees, no snakes ever come here. And if sometimes a snake may come, it is not poisonous. Or if sometimes a poisonous snake may come, its poison is automatically counteracted. And it can do no harm. As the best servant of Lord Hari, Govardhan Hill has made this wonderful arrangement for the Lord's pleasure. So it's just darshan of Govardhan Hill from different angles, moving along the Parikrama path. One of the local Brijbasi monkeys. It's the hill is getting taller and taller. There's the slope is different. The shape of the rocks and so forth is different. Here's the Nilagai. There we go. Now some of them are brownish and some of them are bluish. They look a little bit like deer, but they're actually cows. That's the Nilagai, he's bluish in color. No, Bhakti, I don't know how Bhakti Chip, he must have had a telephotic lens because they don't let you get close to them. Here he's hiding behind a tree. You don't see me. This is the one that was lying down. Very peaceful. The gopis speaking in Srimad Bhagavatam. Blessed are all these foolish deer because they have approached Maharaj Nanda's son, who is gorgeously dressed and is playing his flute. Indeed, both the does and the bucks worship the Lord with looks of love and affection. Here's the tan-colored ones, and here's the blue-colored ones. They're not found in many places. We saw some, if you remember, in the back side of Radha Kund, and in this area of the southern area of Govardhan Hill, there are some also. They're not easy to see, but they're there. And they don't come down the hill much. They stay up on the hill. They're a little shy. Monkeys. So that's the blue cows, number 3. Going down further, there's Indra Kund, number 4. And right across from Indra Kund is Airavata's footprint. You'll see it looks like an elephant footprint. It's Airavata's footprint because Airavata is Indra's elephant carrier. And when Indra descended, he descended with Airavata. So let's see. The Indra Kund now is numbered a little differently. In this picture, it's number 1, and the footprint is right on the side of Govardhan Hill. So here's a closer photograph. On the other side, it's visible is where Dauji is, not far from where Airavata Kund and Indra Kund. Another pilgrim passing along the Parikrama path. Here's Indra Kund, and Indra offering his prayers to Krishna on apparently this side of the hill when he descended. There's the Airavata footprint, the elephant footprint in the Shila. It's very visible, a deep impression in this Shila. And as you recall, that's the back side of the Dauji temple. And then a little bit further down is Surabhi Kund. This place is well maintained and quite large, where Surabhi bathed Krishna. Now, she bathed Krishna either at Govinda Kund or at Surabhi Kund or both. But in any case, Surabhi performed her Abhishek here. It's a nice, peaceful place. It's a nice place for chanting. And not so clean. The lake is relatively clean, but the sitting places, when we go there, we'll have to have somebody go ahead and make it clean. So there's 1, 2, and 3, Surabhi Kund we saw. Next is Kadambavan, where it's just a grove of Kadamba trees. And number 5. 4 is Airavata Kund, right in the middle of this Kadambavan. And 5 is Hari Jui Kund. Now this is a nice area where there's Kadamba trees, and it's very soft. The ground is soft, and devotees like to roll in the sand. Parikrama path, rolling in the sand. And continuing on. We saw the Kadamba Grove. Here's Airavata Kund from an aerial view. Here's Airavata Kund from ground view. And another picture at another time of the year of Airavata Kund. And this Har Jiu is named after one of Krishna's cowherd boyfriends. It's a large place. It's not so much visited by pilgrims, but it's a nice place. Now look at this. Here's another Mukharavind. That's number 3. And this Mukharavind is in the area of Jatipur. Jati means renunciate. So those who were renunciates would live in Jatipur, and the followers of Vallabhacharya accept not at the other 2 places mentioned, but this is the place that they accept as the mouth of Govardhan. And just a little bit further down is the Dandavati Shila we'll see. So as you see, there's a lot of people getting a nice supply of milk and bathing from their cup of milk, the Shila of Govardhan. And there's it's generally crowded. Even if you're not going to go bathe Govardhan at this place, it takes about a half an hour just to get past the place. There's crowds of people. It's a very popular place. Very popular place. And there's looking up on the hill, and some of the cows. It's pretty steep, pretty tall section, and it's in this area. So you see there's Vaishnavas. The Gopal Roy temple was taken over by Vallabhacharya's followers. There's some history. I mentioned some of the history. I'll just tell the rest of it. They repeat the history that Madhavendra Puri engaged 2 brahmanas to be in charge of the worship of Gopal. And so they were the followers of Madhavendra Puri. They lived for a long time, but they had no sons. They were renunciates. And by the time Raghunath Das Goswami was the principal acharya in the Govardhan area, Radhakund area, there was the son of Vallabhacharya was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. So devoted to Lord Chaitanya, more than his father, Raghunath Das entrusted the worship of Gopal to him. However, the worship of Gopal was being done largely by Bengali brahmanas. Listen, the issue came over money, believe it or not. The Bengali brahmanas were accepting donations for the worship of the deity and the maintenance of the temple However, they weren't using it for that purpose. They were using it for furthering other Gaudiya mission purposes. And the followers of Vallabhacharya came to know that's what they were doing. And so they decided to pull a trick. They lit on fire the homes of the Brahmanas. So the Brahmanas had to depart the temple, and when they departed the temple to take care of their burning homes, the Vallabhacharya group went over and took over the temple. So it became an issue that was brought before the king. Now, the Aurangzeb wasn't around at that time. It was Akbar. So he heard the issue, and he entrusted the worship of the deity to the Vallabha followers. And once it was decided by the king, that was it. And then after some time, the Gopal deity was at risk from invading soldiers, Muslim soldiers, and so they took the deity away from on top of the hill, and he's now to Natadwar, where he's being worshipped. The same deity that Madhavendra Puri found by the side of Govardhan Hill is now known by a different name than Gopal. He's known as Srinathji, and he's worshipped there. So there's a Pratibhu deity, a replacement deity at the top. You see the pilgrims climbing up the side of Govardhan Hill to worship that deity. Now, I don't have any photographs because nobody gave me photographs. Here's the place where pilgrims will go, and down a little bit further in the Jatipur area is another one of Vallabhacharya's sitting places. Now, marking a place where their great Acharya, Vallabhacharya, performed his bhajan. Going down a little further, number 4 is this Dandavati Shila. There it is. And it has some special meaning for the Vallabhacharya followers. I don't know exactly what that meaning is, because it's a Govardhan Shila. But Dandavati Shila. During the Karthik month, they placed another Govardhan Shila on top of him and dress, as you see pictured here. They honor in some special ceremonies this Dandavati Shila. There's a close-up of the Shila that's on top. Now we're in the north looking south, in the southerly direction. That's the temple, Gopal Rai temple. And there's Govardhan Hill with Shilas all over the place on top of Govardhan Hill. And then Jatipur over to the right and behind us. We're getting close to finished. There's a long stretch from Jatipur to Govardhan town, where there isn't much but walking along the Parikrama path. Long stretches of sandy path with different scenes along the side as we're walking along. Govardhan Hill to our right always. Different ways of worshipping Govardhan. Here is an example of a Radha Shila and a Shama Shila. The white one right here, that's the Radha Shila. And next to the Radha Shila is the Sham Shila. One of our friendly visitors, residents, he likes clean places. And some monkeys with their little babies and parrots. If you listen to the sounds of Govardhan, the parrots are abundant. There are a lot of them. Sometimes you'll see an owl. And of course, peacocks. And as we're walking along, the scenes of Govardhan Hill are there. Devotees making their way along the Parikrama path. Vendors taking care of people with sugarcane juice. And the path you see in red is taking us to a very interesting place. We walk through the streets of Govardhan town. Remember the shape of Manasi Ganga, that's on blackish lake on the right-hand side. But the Govardhan town, the Parikrama path, Parikrama visitors just have to go right through the town and to one of Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj's favorite places is this Tulsi shop with a very eccentric fellow who's decorated with a nice tilak and red beard and lots of Tulsi in different ways than we normally see people dressed in Tulsi. But he sells regular Tulsi and other things. Apparently, I don't know him, but Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj likes him a lot. And he likes Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj a lot, so he has a few photos. Okay, now then we're going to turn and north, or I mean, not north, it's actually west, is Sakhi Stali. We mentioned this a few times. Sakhi Stali is a place where Chandravali resided with her gopi friends. And Chandravali's father was Chandrabhanu. Chandrabhanu was one of 5 brothers, and his elder brother was Vrishabhanu. Who was Vrishabhanu? Vrishabhanu is the father of Radharani. So that means Chandravali and Radharani were cousins. But they were rivals. Transcendental rivals. And the rivalry was specific in that Chandravali was very submissive, and Radharani was called the left-wing gopi. She would talk back and say things and pout and do things that Krishna was all in love, but Krishna liked that even more than Chandravali's love. In Sakhi Stali area, there's a Gopal temple, and continuing on from the Sakhi Stali, that's this upper area, that dark Kund is Sakhi Stali. We're going to keep moving. And there we see there's somebody doing Dandavati Parikrama with 108 stones. As mentioned, it can take 8 years to go around Govardhan Hill this way. But see, there's some pictures by his head. It's a disciple of Jatipur Maharaj. Along with his chanting of his japa, he would do Dandavati Parikrama for part of the day for some period of time. And that's it for our part 3. And it's only been 2 hours. We didn't have to walk at all. We just sat and... By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we're being introduced to this very merciful pilgrimage and merciful form of Krishna. More and more and more devotees around the world becoming familiar with Govardhan, worshipping Govardhan. I want to speak this evening because the month of Karthik is coming, and the month of Karthik starts on, the 10th, correct? 9th? 9th or 10th?
10th to the 9th.
10th to the 9th. So I want to speak something this evening about the Karthik month, and specifically the Damodar month and the Damodar Leela that celebrated the whole Damodar month. Now, I don't know if there's a plan. I'll mention it this evening and maybe somebody can take it up. In visiting Hong Kong, there's Indian people that live in Hong Kong, and there's Chinese people that live in Hong Kong, and there's other people than those two that live in Hong Kong. So one of their procedures is it's a thing to help people get closer to our ISKCON center in Hong Kong, and they have a party that goes to people's homes, like more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go to people's homes. They teach them the Damodarastaka song. They teach them to offer a lamp to Damodar, and then the people like it so much that they do it for the rest of the month. And it's a way of helping to bring people that aren't so close, because they're busy like anything in Hong Kong, to get closer to Krishna. So it's a nice, if somebody doesn't do it, they're not doing things rightly, but it's a nice way to honor, because you read in Nectar Devotion, and the Karthik month is a very powerful month. And specifically mentioning the Vrata of Karthik, specifically the Vrata that's mentioned, it's consistently is offering a lamp to Damodar during the Damodar month. And our offering of a lamp while singing Damodarastaka within a family or groups of people or whatever. So at least, those of you that get together and have a Bhagavatam reading group or a Bhakti Vriksha group or this or that group, do that. It's recommend. Do that in your group. And then the families can do that in their home, however it's done. It's very simple, but the whole of the Damodar Leela is capsulized in those verses. And sing them every day, and sing them every day, and singing every day, it becomes part of your consciousness. So, very connected to the Kartik month, the Damodar month. So let's see if there's some discussion. 1:30. Yes.
So, Maharaj, there are so many sitting places, caves, places of meditation that various acharyas have established in Vrindavan. And these personalities, they have such an intensity of absorption in the chanting of the holy name. 1 year I was in Vrindavan with His Holiness Sachinandana Swami, Bhurinjana Prabhu and Jagatharini Mataji. And in one of their 64 round chanting sessions, they mentioned that the Holy Dham has got this special spiritual aura or covering, that when people from outside the world just go there, there's that kind of a protective area it is. I was just wondering, like there are thousands of devotees now who are taking to the process of Krishna consciousness, and they live outside of Vrindavan. The cultivation, the degree of absorption that one can get in Vrindavan, even a semblance of that, or to some degree of that depth in the cultivation of this spiritual practice, is it even? Is it possible? For those who are living outside of Vrindavan.
Well, you know the answer. You want me to say the answer that you already know. Yeah, you want me to say. So, Govardhan is very merciful. There's all the range of personalities who visit or go or live in Vrindavan is the whole spectrum. And Vrindavan, the Govardhan, You specifically were speaking Govardhan, but Vrindavan in general, but Govardhan in specific. Very merciful. And the merciful nature of Vrindavan's merciful nature is Srimati Radharani, and she's very kind. And Govardhan is very open, he's very approachable for all types of people. Now, how much benefit is going to vary from person to person, but benefit for sure. It's like the chanting of the holy name. How much benefit will people get from chanting the holy name if they don't know what the holy name is? It's absolute. So going to the holy dham, of course, there is the concern to avoid offense, but it's not difficult to encourage visitors who are new to be cautious about making offense. And offenses are real, so one should avoid offense. But if it's an innocent mistake is one thing, and offense is another thing. So the question you're raising is, will people who don't really know much at all get benefit because they don't know much at all by coming in contact with Vrindavan, or specifically we've been speaking Govardhan? Yes, very much. Very much. Their lives will be transformed by the mercy of the holy dham. It's palpable.
Also, what I was asking was outside of Vrindavan. I got this point, but I was asking about people who are practicing outside of Vrindavan.
Same.
The intensity of absorption is
If
easily.
they don't visit the dham, but they just do bhakti outside of Vrindavan. That's your question?
Yeah, the intensity of practice.
Oh, I didn't understand your question.
But the other part also is actually part of.
Okay, well, may that day come when they want to. Become absorbed like those that are residing in Vrindavan or visiting Vrindavan. May that day come. It's natural that as one progresses on the bhakti path without having visited a holy dham, that one wants to visit the holy dham. There are 5 most potent activities, and supposing that one doesn't happen, the other 4 are happening to some extent. Then one wants to do the other one. Naturally. And then the visit, they're more qualified at a later point in time than if they had done it at an earlier point in time. Here, one of the 5 is Bhagavatam, because I understand part of what we're doing today is inaugurating the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam reading. So, supposing someone goes years and years and years without Bhagavatam, when they get the Bhagavatam after years and years and years, it's going to increase the effectiveness of their appreciation of the Bhagavatam after receiving it. But supposing they don't know so much about it, they get it at an earlier stage. It's absolute. It happens when it happens. And we want to encourage progress, so we encourage people, if they can, come visit Vrindavan. If they can't, then later come visit Vrindavan. Anything else?
The online question.
This is from Dhananjayala Prabhu. I saw the poster in which all the 6 Goswamis sitting and studying scripture. Where is it?
The location.
Location of the place.
Where's what?
6 Goswamis are sitting and studying scripture.
Where's the picture?
Now there is a picture, I think 6 Goswamis. So what is the place name?
Oh, there are many meeting places. There's not just one. Oh, a celebrated place was at the Radha Damodar temple, because geographically, the Radha Damodar temple was central to where the other Goswamis resided. And so they went there. There's paintings of meeting along the side of the river Jamuna, upstream from Madan Mohan temple. They had different places where they would meet.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Wonderful talk, introducing Vrindavan. My question is about, we saw, there is in Airavat Kund, Indra Kund and all those things. Is there anything like that for the Brahma Vimochana Leela? Any reminders of?
Yeah.
Is there a place?
Yeah, there's 3 of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Take a pick. I think, well, there's a virtual visitation to places that, if I don't know if we're going to get to it, because there's other things going to be happening. But I guess I could put that in, in the queue. Okay, Brahmakund. There's a place downtown, and there's a place near Chirgat. And there's a third place that, it has all the features of Brahma Vimohan Leela, and then we can tell the whole Brahma Vimohan Leela. But there are places that commemorate that pastime. No, they say this is the place where Brahma put the calves and cowherd boys into the cave and so forth.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful class giving the details of Vrindavan. My question is not related to this topic, but it is in general. Like we see some people, they'll be struggling a lot, going through so much of obstacles or panics in their life. So they feel like they...
Who's they? Who's the they you're referring to?
In my family.
Your family?
Yes.
Okay.
So they feel like they're not like getting the grace of Lord. Though like they have been having conversation, trying to establish relationship with the Lord, still like how do we answer them? Yeah, what is your answer for them?
Your family or relatives want to know how to establish their relationship.
Yes.
That's the question? You want to know how to respond to that question?
How to be available for the Lord's grace? How to be available?
How can they receive Lord's grace?
Yes.
Are they asking for it, or you want to give it to them?
They're asking for it.
Okay.
And even after they try many times,
Yes.
they are not getting the blessing. So how to tell them keep trying or keep have faith?
Do they have a clear idea, or do you have a clear idea what their clear idea is of what getting mercy is going to look like? Does it mean they feel something, or does it mean they get wealthy, or what is it? What's the indicator? What's the flashpoint? What's the symptom, the characteristic of getting the mercy from their vantage point?
So whatever they aspire, like they were not, it is a material thing, but whatever they are aspiring, like it's taking a long time. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't answer the question. It's the same. The question is the duration, but I'm asking, what does it look like? What does getting the mercy look like? That it's not happening because it's taking a long time. What is it that they're? You may not know, but to help them get a picture of what getting the mercy is, you may have to recalibrate what getting the mercy looks like. That's why I'm asking the question. The very fact, so say when I was a little girl, and mom and dad, you're helping me in so many ways, in so many ways, in so many ways, in so many ways. I don't even know how many all the ways are, but now I have my own children, so I know it's like lots of ways. And I wasn't really paying attention to how you were sacrificing for me. And now that I have my own children, I have that understanding. And they don't understand how I'm sacrificing for them. It doesn't mean that my children aren't getting the mercy. I'm sacrificing for them because that's what I do. And same, Krishna is giving his mercy. Now, what's your understanding of what that mercy that you're getting from Krishna is going to look like? It may take for you to grow up. And then, then you'll understand what Krishna is doing for you.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Maharaj.
I mean, just put it in practical terms that a mature person can understand what it was like when I wasn't mature. And it may take a while to become mature. So getting mercy is having the connection, the forgotten relationship with Krishna restored. And the forgotten relationship with Krishna doesn't mean you get something or you feel something. It's those things may be there, whatever. But how are your children going to reciprocate with you when they become mature? How is it going to look like? So they may not, but your satisfaction is just the service that you're doing. So they're now looking up to Krishna. What it should look like is there isn't a demand. Now, likely there's a demand. So what's that demand? Because our hearts aren't pure. But the essence is the relationship. And any steps that invest in the relationship is worth it. It's an eternal asset that won't be taken. Everything material will be taken. That won't be taken. And that's the essence of what you should have an expectation for. Is the forgotten relationship is revived.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Like a child recognizing the sacrifices that have been made for them by those who are sacrificed. It's not just parents, but it's, so many people in our lives have sacrificed for us so that we are what we are. It's a relationship is everything. And you get some other yardsticks out, you may not feel satisfied.
Thanks, Maharaj.
Behind you.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. My question is that I've heard that when you visit Brajbhumi, that you can commit some offenses.
Yes,
What are
you
they
can.
talking about? Can you elaborate on those?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. You know a little bit about the offenses to chanting of the holy name, correct? There's 10 offenses. There's 10 nam aparads, there's 10 dam aparads. The essence of the nam aparads is very similar to the essence of the dam. Each, look closely sometime at each of the 10 nam aparads, and the essence is that which is spiritual is not seen as spiritual. And so you relate to that which is spiritual in a different way. Dhamma parad is the same. That which is spiritual is not seen as spiritual. That's the essence. Again, you can go through the list. There's lists, 10 Dhamma aparats to be avoided, but that which is spiritual is not seen as spiritual. So here's a real easy one to make an offense. And that is the people who reside in Vrindavan, you see them as ordinary or worse. Here's a little, here's two stories. One is I heard from Sachinandan Swami, the other one I heard from Malati. Sachinandan Swami is from Germany. He was born, that's where his birth is. So he was in Vrindavan with a friend who, after a visit to Vrindavan, he disappeared. He just stopped devotional practice. He just disappeared. Later, he came back. Sachinandan Swami said he didn't even recognize him. He was like beat up and looked different. They asked him, where you been? What happened? And this friend said, I was in Loy Bazaar, and I was trained, when you get on a rickshaw, you negotiate the price for the rickshaw before you get on the rickshaw, because if you don't, when you get on the other side, you could be very surprised what the number is. So I set a price for the rickshawala, and when I got in front of Krishna Balaram Mandir, he wanted more. So I got angry, and I started shouting at the guy, and the guy took offense, and I put the rupees on his rickshaw seat, and he took it and threw it on the ground and went away. And I understood I had offended a rickshawala, a Brijbasi rickshawala. And that ruined my spiritual life. Over getting into, it's just, how you navigate dealing with somebody when they're being greedy and they're not behaving properly. You don't treat them abusively, because it can have consequences. And here's another example. This one I heard recently from Malati. The 1971 or something like that, Prabhupada was taking a group of devotees through Vrindavan, and they were doing Govardhana Parikrama, and it was time for lunch. So Malati, one of her duties was preparing Prabhupada's lunch. And it was, a daily thing, and they had no real place to cook because they're off, going around Govardhan town. Prabhupada had health issues. I found out later the reason Prabhupada had massage, I found out later, is because one kidney was unfunctioning and the other kidney was half functioning, which meant that toxins were building up in his body regularly, and it was painful. So because his kidneys weren't functioning, he had massages to help relieve his body from the toxins that were accumulating in the tissues of his body. It was just a medical thing. It wasn't a feel-good thing. So it was time for his lunch, and he was taking massage. But he was taking massage practically in a public place. It was behind a door, but there wasn't room on the other side of the door, she said. And it was time for lunch, and she didn't have enough of the attar for making chapatis, so she was in anxiety, but she prepared it and offered it to Prabhupada. And as she was bringing the plate to offer to Prabhupada, there were 3 dogs, street dogs, following her because they knew it was mealtime. And the sannyasis were trying to shoo the dogs away. And Prabhupada motioned with his hand. He didn't say anything, just to leave the dogs alone. He took a chapati, broke it into 2 or 3 pieces, and tossed it to them. They caught it in their mouth, wagged their tails, and went away. And Prabhupada said to them, you never know who they are. He said something. He said, he didn't say hot. He said something in, local language. And they understood what that meant, and they went away. So he was respectful because they're Brijvasis. Now, they may behave in ways that are not nice, without mentioning some of the ways that are not nice. But so we have to be careful when visiting the Dham that these are residents of the Dham. And if they make an offense, they may take birth in their next life as an animal, but then that's their last life. It's like a very special place. So you never know. You never know. So be careful. Don't treat the trees and the people and the animals and the monkeys and the this is the that's. You don't leave your door open, but you don't treat them disrespectfully. So it's an extra note of caution. That which is spiritual should not be seen as material, even if the covering is material. I'm going to tell another little story. It's a nice story. First-hand experience. I'm service-minded, and when I found out that there was a Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education that lasted for the whole month of Karthik, I signed up to be a teacher. So for 3-4 years, I was a teacher at the Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education. And it was a practice for the devotees in Vrindavan at Krishna Balaram Temple. Every Ekadasi, so twice in the course of a month, right after Mangal Arati and Tulsi Puja, the devotees that wanted to would gather by the front gate, leave the front gate, go around the inner Vrindavan Parikrama that would take about an hour and 20 minutes, and then come back to the Krishna Balaram Temple in time for greeting the deities. So I liked it, every Kartik. And I found out that every Ekadasi, there was a dog waiting at the gate, sitting, waiting at the gate for the devotees to come out, and he would wag his tail, and then he would join the party every Ekadasi. And he went around, he was like the bodyguard. And there was a place near the southern part of that parikrama path where there was an abandoned temple, a big field, and some street dogs. So every time we went by, the dogs would hear us coming by, and they'd come running out, woof, 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 and showing their fangs and doing their dog thing. And so the dog that was accompanying us, he knew where the spot was, and he would, the hair on the back of his shoulders stood up, and his ears stood up, and he growled and kept them away until we passed. Then he wagged his tail and came and joined us. And then when we got to the front of the gate at the end, he paid his obeisances and went away. And it was every Ekadasi. And then after some time, he died. And that was his last life. So who was he in his previous life? Who knows? But, it's not ordinary. And then what about those other guys that are down there, barking at and growling at the devotees? There are some other Brijbasis. We don't mess with them. But we don't disrespect them, because who knows? So we can discriminate about behaviors, but the residents of Vrindavan are special. We don't mix with them. Prabhupada advised, because we don't understand their ways. But we don't treat them as ordinary. If they walk on Govardhan Hill, we don't scold them or look down on them. They are who they are, and whoever they are, doing what they do. They're not ordinary. There's some people that do bad stuff. They're gundas that live in, so we don't mix with them. They're dangerous. But they're not ordinary.
I
I've been visiting Vrindavan for a long time, and every time I visit, I have that question. When I visit these so many different kundas, these ponds, especially Radha Kund and Jamna Ji. So the question I have all the time is whether I should take Achman and take bath in Jamna Ji and Radha Kund or not, because the local Brajvasis, they do it all the time, and many saints who are living there for a long time, they do it. But I still don't have the courage. I started doing last year and all that, but I still have that question in my mind whether it's an offense or not, whether we should take Achman and take bath or we can avoid it.
Ashman is one thing and bath is another thing. Taking Achman could be a mistake.
Achman means drinking it, right?
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Yes, it can be a mistake. Because there's stuff in the water that you shouldn't drink. Even as Jamuna water or Radhakund water, we shouldn't drink. But sprinkle on your head versus take bath. Versus. So, there were different things at different times that Prabhupada said about taking bath. And he forbid it because the devotees were, not properly respecting. And for years it was, we don't bathe in Radhakund because Prabhupada said we don't bathe in Radhakund. And then it modified after some years that if you get particular blessings from Prabhupada, you can take bath in Radhakund. And that's kind of the way that it has stuck. So it's two things. Take permission and enter the Radhakund with utmost respect, because Radhakund is not different than Krishna. Aside from what local people do, that's the standard that has evolved. Now some gurus say no, and some gurus say be respectful and then it's okay. And some gurus may say, wait another few years till you're more purified because you're not qualified to be properly respectful. So it can be different answers but that's the principle that we follow. As far as Jamuna, Prabhupada personally took bath at Brahmakund or Brahmanda Kund and, encouraged the devotees to take bath in the Jamuna. So drinking Achman, no. Taking bath in Jamuna, yes, respectfully. And the loss of contamination by this and that and the other, so still Jamuna is pure, sanctifying, and Radhakund is most sacred. Okay?
Thank you.
Is that it? We have some online? That's it? You have something? No. Okay.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. You said Radharani's parrot name is Daksha. Somewhere I heard that the parrot name is Shuka.
Vrinda Devi's parrot is Daksha? That's what you're saying?
Radharani's parrot name.
No, she has another name for her parrot.
Okay.
My understanding. I mean, the experience is different sources say different things about the same thing.
Okay.
But she has a name for her parrot that's not Daksha. That's the name consistently that, as far as I've seen, that's the name of Vrinda Devi's parrot.
Okay.
So you're fixing on what's the name of Radharani's parrot?
Yeah, I wanted to know that. And I also heard that, the parrot name is Shuka, and he came as Shukadeva Goswami later. Is that true?
That's in one of the Puranas, and it's not something that I've heard Prabhupada repeat. And it's repeated here and there because it's in the Puranas. Brahma Vaivarta Purana, as far as I can recall.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah. Back. And this will be it. We're going to end. 2 o'clock, gosh.
Guru Maharaj, as you're describing Raghava Goswami's cave, it's actually quite interesting. Premanand Mataji was mentioning anywhere in Vrindavan or Govardhan is so potent. I mean, I can only imagine just being there anywhere and just chanting. And he is actually trying to go into a cave and then chant so that no distractions comes. I mean, I understand each of us may have a
Yes.
particular way where we can get the potency. So I just want you to maybe give some tips how we can consciously create such distraction-free zones externally and also internally.
Well, it starts with internal, and then it goes to external. And you can try to do the external, you get restless unless it's the internal. When meditating this morning, preparing for this topic about Raghava Goswami's cave, I was thinking Raghunath Das Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they circumambulated Govardhan Hill every day. They weren't in a cave. And when circumambulating Govardhan Hill, I don't personally find that the chanting is absorption in the holy name. It's absorption in Govardhan Hill and the mercy that's coming from Govardhan Hill. But for me, at least, it's not absorption, specifically absorption in the holy name. So, it's for each person. Somehow it must have worked for them, because otherwise they wouldn't have done it. So how to just depends on it starts inside and it comes out. What works for you, that's what you do. I know some devotee that gets up early in the morning and after taking bath, he turns all the lights out. He's in complete darkness, purposefully. Complete darkness. Sitting in one place. He knows where everything is. There's some water for drinking and he's in a dark place. No, not everyone does that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes something else and someone else may do it. So let the purpose be served by the internal intention of concentration and being fully attentive to the holy name. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki.